Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku was their hidden strength part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below. And let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story MerrilyAround from 𝗓𝗏. So let's start the video. Lunch Rush chapter text. Contrary to what his fans believe, 𝗬𝗪 does not, in fact, order cold soba every day for lunch. He certainly does consider it to be the perfect food, and had confirmed that it is indeed his favorite dish when he'd been interviewed this past summer for Heroes Today's monthly Rising Stars Spotlight article. But as an aspiring hero, he has to acknowledge that he needs a healthy, varied diet, which eating cold soba every day would not support. Also, his boyfriend was starting to get worried. So no, he does not always order the cold soba prepared in U.A.'s lunch rush cafeteria. In deference to the aforementioned dietary needs, and to his boyfriend whose freckles approach dangerous levels of adorable when the greenette pouts, he only orders it on Fridays. Happily, today is Friday. Though his face remains impassive, 𝗬𝗪 is internally gleeful as he takes his seat next to Izuku at their usual lunch table. Around him, their classmates sit down as well, loudly chattering as they balance trays and pass condiments. Last year, they'd tended to scatter to different tables across the cafeteria, sticking with little cliques and friend groups. However, Class 2A has been through so much as a unit that they are now difficult to separate. Sure, some of 𝗬𝗪's peers are closer than others, but with so many strong bonds now linking their different groups together, they'd soon realized it was easiest just to push a few tables together and be done with it. On 𝗬𝗪's other side, Ochako pulls out her chair, and across the table from them Ida, Tsu, and Momo are already exchanging the latest anecdotes from their internships. 𝗬𝗪 blissfully tucks in, intending to focus only on his lunch, even if it makes him poor company. He does half listen to Momo complaining about the sidekick she's routinely paired with, who tends to treat her like a freaking beanie, despite her continued insistence that it's a waste of her powers and bad for the economy. But at the moment, it's hard to be invested in anything other than the satisfying slurp of his delicately flavored noodles. Tragically, a loud explosion from the end of the table draws his attention. Well used to Bakugo's frequent outbursts, this wouldn't normally be enough to tear him away. But he senses the way Ochako at his elbow has gone tense, practically vibrating with the effort of staying in her seat. That is odd enough on its own. What's stopping her from intervening when she so clearly wants to? 𝗬𝗪 follows her narrowed gaze to where a student from Class 3B is arguing with Bakugo. Jesus, what the hell is your problem? I'm not trying to get your friend alone so I can kill him, for fuck's sake. I just want to talk privately for a minute. Why can't you just say it right here then? Fucking bug eye creep. The insult is quite literal. The student appears to have some kind of bee or wasp quirk, and his yellow eyes are distinctly insectoid. He scoffs, antennae waving. What, you his keeper or something? And do you have a beekeeper? Todoroki unhelpfully responds in his mind. It's not like he really cares one way or another about the disagreement. It just seemed like a good opportunity for the jab. Behind him, Izuku presses a scarred hand on 𝗬𝗪's arm as his curious boyfriend cranes his head to get a better look at the commotion. I'm not his fucking keeper, Dick Needle. Are you dating him, then? Ochako jerks next to him, inhaling sharply as she leans in slightly closer, which 𝗬𝗪 finds quite strange. Ochako's not usually one to take glee in the drama of others. And anyways, she's become one of those closest with both the teens in question. Surely it wouldn't be news to her if they were actually dating, although it certainly would be big news to everyone else in their class. Beside Bakugo, 𝗬𝗪 can see Ishido hanging on to every word of the exchange, eyes wide. Huh? What the fuck? No? Then I don't see why he needs your permission to have a conversation. The older student buzzes angrily. Shinsu, apparently the rope in this verbal game of tug-of-war, has clearly had enough. He is seated across from 𝗵𝘃𝗂 at the far end of the table, and tiredly flaps a hand in a lazy effort to placate the blonde. Ugh, just tell me whatever it is here, it's fine. Shinsu flicks purple eyes ringed with dark shadows to the increasingly unwelcome intruder. Right, okay. He folds all four of his arms across his chest, still emitting the angry hum. He turns to Shinsu, and in an awkwardly flat tone that makes his words sound overly practiced, says, Shinsu-kun, I'm 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗲 𝗵𝐻𝐼 from Class 3B. I've admired you for some time now. I'd like to take you to the 𝗬𝗬𝗎𝗕 Pussycats musical concert playing this weekend. Will you join me? No. Why, he said no. Fuckwit. Was that not clear? Why don't you? 𝗵𝘃𝗂 props his chin up on his hand, smirking smugly though his red eyes still spark angrily. Buzz off. Seriously. God, I don't know why I bothered. Fine, you keep panting after him then, you feral mutt. Doesn't seem like Shinsu's interested in you either, though. Can't say I blame him, he scoffs, as 𝗵𝘃𝗂 leaps to a battle stance with a growl. Who'd want to be with someone so obviously violent? 𝗬𝗪 expects 𝗵𝘃𝗂 to attack at these last parting words. To his surprise, all the fight seems to go out of him. Instead, it's Kirishima who now jumps up to defend his friend. It's unnecessary, however. By the time he's reached 𝗵𝘃𝗂's side, the older student has already left. Geez, what an asshole. You guys okay? 𝗵𝘃𝗄. HMPH. 𝗵𝘃𝗂 slumps back down in his seat and says nothing for the remainder of their lunch period, staring stubbornly at his uneaten half sandwich and ignoring his friends who anxiously poke and prod. 𝗬𝗪 notices Ochako fidgeting restlessly as well, mindlessly chasing bits of lettuce across her plate without really making an attempt to spear them. Kekken is really upset, Izuku observes, quietly muttering in 𝗬𝗪's ear. 𝗬𝗪 still has a hard time understanding his boyfriend's affection for the former bully. 𝗬𝗪 himself continues to have a hard time actually liking his ridiculously obnoxious peer, and that had started even before he'd learned about the decade of hell Izuku had survived at his once childhood friend's hands. They've learned to work together, at first out of necessity, and gradually out of a burgeoning mutual respect. But 𝗬𝗪 can't understand how someone can be so hell-bent on making everyone in his life jump through so many hoops just to be close to them. It leaves a sour taste in his mouth, reminds him too much of his own upbringing. The warning bell rings, and they gather their lunch debris. Ochako walks with them, but her eyes remain trained on the blonde and wan purple-haired student dawdling behind. She seems worried. But it's more than that, 𝗬𝗪 thinks, watching his close friend carefully out of the corner of his eye as she unsuccessfully pretends to be interested in Izuku's speculation on the strengths of insect quirks. Ochako looks. Frustrated patrol chapter text Katsuki stomps angrily along the evening's assigned route. He's solo tonight, again. Technically, all interns are supposed to be accompanied by a fully licensed pro at all times. At the very least, a low-tier sidekick from the overseeing agency. His assigned partner, however, is the flakiest so-called hero he's ever had the damn misfortune to meet. Katsuki's not one to bitch and moan, though. He's confident he can take on any villains on his own. And if that sleazy woman-addicted asshole wants to leave all the glory to him, so much the better. He's fairly certain Best Jeanist would throw a shit fit if he found out. But that's not Katsuki's problem. If the walking fashion disaster can't keep track of his crappy employees, it's his own damn fault. The incident from lunch yesterday still rankles, and though Katsuki tries to stay aware of his surroundings, he keeps replaying it over in his head. It doesn't help that he hasn't been able to get alone with either of his partners since. They're all busy this year with internships, and their shifts don't tend to mesh up much, either. Angel Face can be out of the city for days at a time, sometimes. Her anti-gravity quirk and her boss's dragon form making them both critical assets at disaster rescue across Japan. Their second-year courses are designed to be flexible to accommodate the heroes in training's invaluable real-world experience. So when they do have time off, it's spent cramming for tests and feverishly working on missed projects. And who the fuck knows what Toshi gets up to these days? He doesn't technically have an agency, or even a real boss, as far as Katsuki can tell. He just gets shady assignments, and will give them a quick heads up before disappearing, going no contact until the mission is over. The longest was 3 days, and it had been hell. Only the fact that Aizawa didn't look concerned kept him and Cheeks from completely losing their damn minds. The worst part is, he knows it's partially his own fucking fault that pricks like 𝗧𝗵𝗲 think they stand a chance with Toshi. Of the 3 of them, Katsuki's been by far the most reluctant to make their relationship public. But why should they? PDA makes him uncomfortable, and nobody needs to know his feelings, except maybe, occasionally, the people he has feelings for. It's abso-fucking-lutely not the business of any damn extras. Maybe Katsuki relents. They could let a couple people in on the secret. Shitty Hair's always got this constipated look on his face lately, like he knows something's up, but is waiting for Katsuki to tell him. And he's pretty sure Toshi's whole family has known about them this entire time. But thankfully they have the fucking decency not to mention it. Cheeks, though, ugh. What if she wants to tell Deku? He does not want the shitty nerd micro analyzing their relationship. It still pisses him off when the fucker pops up with some new observation on his quirk technique. If he starts doing that with dating advice, Katsuki swears he will kill him, and then probably himself. Katsuki dodges another group of costumed freaks giggling in the middle of the street. Fucking figures he'd get stuck with the evening shift on October 31st. He's never understood the appeal of Halloween for adults. Seems like a pathetic way for people who weren't cut out to be heroes to get their sad little fantasies briefly fulfilled. He cringes in disgust as sexy Kamui Woods drunkenly stumbles across his path. Unless there's been a massive redesign recently, he doesn't recall the tree hero wearing a bra made out of leaves. And, is that a twig corset? What a goddamn disgrace. A high-pitched scream from somewhere nearby puts Katsuki on instant alert. He barks a warning at the nearby crowds to get the fuck out of the way, then fires a blast, propelling him rapidly in the direction it came from. Katsuki rounds a corner into a narrow alleyway, just in time to see a woman dressed as Rabbit Hero Mariko. That costume had needed very little altering to achieve a sexy version, struggling to push away the heavy-set man crowding her against the side of a brick building. "Oi, fucker," Katsuki yells, and the assailant looks up just in time to meet Katsuki's punch face-on. He's on the ground in seconds, howling as he throws his hands up to the blood gushing from his swollen nose. The ugly fuck is zipped up in a shitty denim-printed spandex jumpsuit, obviously meant to emulate the look of Katsuki's own fashion crime boss. "Doesn't seem like the lady's interested," Katsuki snarls. What the fuck is with these assholes and not taking no for an answer? Katsuki can't imagine many things more humiliating than pursuing someone who's clearly not on board. But sadly not everyone seems to feel that way. The lady in question gasps her thanks before rushing off, hopefully to find whatever group she must have been separated from. "Fuck you." The creep whines nasally. His sense of self-preservation must be off somewhere with his basic human decency, because the man gets to his feet and draws up his own fists as if he thinks he has any chance in a fight here. Katsuki grins wide, showing all his teeth. He loves it when they're too fucking stupid to surrender. Shortly after, Katsuki emerges from the alley, dragging the unconscious offender by his equally offensive, ugly zippered collar. There's a Kobin down the block. He'll drop him off there. Hopefully he won't need to stay long for paperwork and questioning. Otherwise he'll have to contact the agency to get someone else to finish his shift. Blinding flashes of light has him throwing his free arm across his face to protect his eyes. What the oh, god fucking damn it. Not these shits again. Ground Zero. Was this a villain attack? Can you tell us about the villain's quirk? Ground Zero. What are the details of this altercation? Doesn't he seem fairly badly injured? Ground Zero. Can you tell us why extreme force was needed? Katsuki ignores the reporters, hoisting the foul man over his shoulder and trying to pass by to get him to the police. He's learned by now not to engage, Although it's taken this long for Blue Geniust's PR team to beat the message into him. Originally, they tried to teach him to answer the questions in a way befitting the agency's image, but after a few consecutive media disasters, had adopted Plan B. Plan B was, in essence, don't fucking talk at all. We're begging you. Ever since the sludge villain incident, the media has been a frequent presence in Katsuki's life. The sports festival and the kidnapping which led to the retirement of All Might had only increased their interest in him as a future hero. Now that he's begun work as one, it seems they pop up whenever he turns around. It's fucking tiresome. Apparently, there are fan pages and forums and shit dedicated to him, too. 𝗬𝗏 had let him know, as if Katsuki cares. Fucking half and half tried to convince him they were at least worth keeping an eye on to get a sense of his public image, especially if he does want to go for the #1 spot. Katsuki's not buying it. If he has to play nice with the public to be the best hero, he must be pretty shit at his job, shoving his way through cameras and microphones. The smelly pervert dribbling something wet down his back, Katsuki thinks, with ill-tempered exhaustion, that his shift can't end soon enough. Hitoshi's room. Chapter text 𝗵𝗃 We're here 𝗵𝗃. Balcony doors unlocked. 𝗧𝗵𝗲. Okay, be there soon. 3 𝗵𝗃. Hurry, our Pomeranian's getting anxious. 𝗵𝗃. The fuck 𝗵𝗃? He's pacing in circles 𝗵𝗃. Keeps poking his little doggy nose out the window sniffing for you 𝗵𝗃. Die 𝗵𝗃. Bad dog. Giggling, Ochako snaps her phone shut and double-checks the lock on her door. Just in case any of her friends try to stop by this late at night, she plugs in her little white noise machine. It's shaped like a teddy bear and was probably meant for infants, but the relaxing wave sounds help her sleep. And the loud, lulling sound is a convenient cover for the silence in her room when she sneaks out on nights like tonight. Ochako quietly slides open the glass door leading to her little balcony and carefully closes it behind her, making sure she can see no one watching, either from the grounds or their own balconies. Ochako activates her quirk. Now weightless, she springs into the air and uses the tips of her fingers to quickly walk up the side of the building. She swings herself up over the thankfully empty rooftop, and Ochako hopes the chilly November air continues to keep her classmates indoors. Once, she'd interrupted Toru-chan and Mishirao-kun stargazing and had to invent a not very believable excuse on the spot. Something about astronomy research for an independent study. Toru still asks her how her project is getting along, and Ochako is almost positive she's teasing her on purpose. The anti-gravity girl drops to the rooftop and dashes across, reading herself to jump over the other side with practiced familiarity. Their schedules, and their decision to keep their relationship a secret, make it near impossible to spend any meaningful time together during the day. Thoroughly fed up and missing each other badly, they've been organizing after-hours rendezvous ever since the summer break, when Hitoshi first suggested it. They still can't meet up as often as they'd like, but usually they manage it about once every couple of weeks. It's easy enough for those two. The guys in their class are always in and out of each other's rooms to hang out, and no one ever raises an eyebrow. It's the same with the girls. But Aizawa comes down on them like a bag of hammers if he hears word of any of them trying to visit each other, especially at night. Which is so stupid, considering how the straight students in their class are the minority. Ochako suspects it's mostly due to the teachers trying to prevent teen pregnancies, rather than actually caring what they get up to. She lands neatly on Hitoshi's balcony, and the door is thrown open before she even gets the chance to touch it. A hand roughly fists into the front of her pale pink pajamas and drags her into the room. Off balance, she falls onto Katsuki, which was likely her boyfriend's intent anyhow. After landing a scolding swat on his chest, she leans down to let their lips meet, and relaxes into the burnt sugar kiss as she feels his arms wrapped securely around her. Told you he was getting all worked up. Hitoshi sounds smug, somewhere above them. He's probably sitting on his bed like a normal person. ignoring Katsuki's weak attempt to restrain her. 𝗂𝗧𝗄 pulls herself up to join him. Not for the first time, she wonders if this will be the night they finally progress beyond aggressive cuddling. They've been dating for the better part of a year, but it actually doesn't feel like it's been that long. Between school, internships, the on-stop the world-ending battle, and keeping their relationship a secret, there hasn't been a lot of time for proper dates and other stuff. 𝗂𝗧𝗄 plops next to Hitoshi, using her momentum to drag him down next to her, both of them now laying perpendicularly across the bed. Mimicking Kat's move from before, she works a finger into the soft collar of Hitoshi's loose t-shirt, tugging him close for their own kiss. As she relishes the familiar flavor of Hitoshi's mint lip balm, 𝗂𝗧𝗄 feels the bed dip, Katsuki having made his way up. Caught up in the feeling of Hitoshi's tongue sweeping under her own, 𝗂𝗧𝗄 pays him no mind until, that is, she feels Kat's hot breath on her neck. Humming in satisfaction at her shiver, Katsuki lays a possessive hand on the small of her waist and settles his mouth at the base of her neck. He teases with his tongue, sucking lightly so as not to leave a mark, but with enough pressure to drive 𝗂𝗧𝗄 wild. The three of them spend a pleasurable hour this way, contentedly winding around each other, basking in the sunshine warmth of their reunion. This is perfect, just perfect. And she feels all the tension she's been carrying this last week completely melt out of her as she is finally reunited with her lovers. If only we didn't have to hide. The unfairness of their situation has been eating at 𝗂𝗧𝗄 for ages. They're all in excellent moods right now. Maybe this would be a good time to. Guys? 𝗂𝗧𝗄 asks softly. For a moment she thinks it's too late, that the others have fallen asleep. But the young men stir on either side of her and open their eyes to indicate she has their attention. Do you think? Why is she so nervous? Do you think, maybe, it's time? Time? Hitoshi asks, cautiously. From the tone of his voice and the way Katsuki's eyes have widened, she's sure they both know what she means, but she elaborates anyway, struggling to find the right words. We've been dating for nearly a year now. 10 months, I think. And I know at first we agreed not to tell anyone. We weren't really sure what this is or what we are, and we still don't know anyone else in a relationship like ours. But I think we know enough. Now, we're confident in what we have, aren't we? Can't we start telling people about us? 𝗂𝗧𝗄 looks at her partners hopefully. She hasn't exactly laid out her argument as succinctly as she'd planned, but she's pretty sure she got her point across. It's silly, isn't it? Hiding themselves away, like what they're doing is illicit. Humph. I guess we could tell a couple people now. Shitty hair's been after me for a talk. Katsuki rolls his eyes, and 𝗂𝗧𝗄 feels a bright bubble of relief expand in her chest at his easy acquiescence. But, you mean, like, just a couple of people at first? Before we tell everyone, you mean? Katsuki scoffs, and the bubble pops, leaving her achingly hollow. Everyone? It's none of everyone's damn business. Hitoshi remains silent, and 𝗂𝗧𝗄 bites her bottom lip in frustration. Don't they want to be able to hold hands in public, snuggle close on movie nights, actually go on dates where they might be seen by people, rather than meeting up halfway across the city with hoods drawn high? I thought you don't care what others think. Why does it matter if people know about us? Why does it matter if they don't? The blonde's counterpoint is maddeningly unhelpful, like he's not taking this seriously at all. 𝗂𝗧𝗄 sits upright, cozy sleepiness now gone entirely, and glares down at him furiously. What, so we just have to keep sneaking around? Turning down people's advances without even explaining why? People are getting hurt. Katsuki, I'm getting hurt. Ha. Who the fuck's asking you out, cheeks? Give me names. The possessive snarl doesn't give 𝗂𝗧𝗄 the usual thrill. Instead, she feels a hot wave of rage pulse through her. Why? 𝗂𝗧𝗄 slings herself roughly over Katsuki, stands on the floor with her fists on her hips. So you can go threaten them for hitting on your just a friend. That's not, what is this even about? Katsuki, are you ashamed of us? At his sputtering, wordless protest, she raises her eyes to meet Hitoshi's amethyst pair, gleaming in the dark. "What do you think, Hitoshi? Is this enough for you?" Hitoshi shrugs, expression tight, and Ochako struggles to read the emotions twisted there. "It's the most I've ever had." She softens at this, but only a little. Not enough to lay back down. No, she's not satisfied by half. Does Katsuki really never intend to be open about their relationship? She can't do this. Not right now, anyways. And that's what she tells them before leaping back out into the night, leaving a trail of perfectly round teardrops floating behind her. When 𝗪𝗏 emerges from his bright yellow cocoon at the beginning of homeroom, even though the writing on the whiteboard indicates this is to be a free study period translation, their teacher doesn't care what they do, so long as they do it quietly and no one ends up at Recovery Girl's office. Denki's first instinct is to panic. This can't be good, right? It's never anything good. What's it going to be? Pop quiz? A new project? Bits of paper stick to his arms as he nervously generates static. Attention. Despite the single word being spoken at low volume, the class quiets instantly and looks to their teacher. Tension hums in the room, every student on the edge of their seat waiting to hear what most likely grim news Dad Sensei has for them. Well, almost everyone. Denki notices a few students have barely raised their heads. Shinsu's eye bags are even more pronounced than usual, and the red pigment of Bakugo's eyes seems to have leached into the skin surrounding them. It's not too out of the ordinary for those two to be unenthusiastic, though. What's really weird is Ochako. She's usually one of the peppiest in their class, bounding in with a cheerful good morning and a kind word for each of her classmates. Today, though, she arrived just seconds before the bell and went straight to her desk with her head down. She'd even told Deku to go away when he asked her what was wrong. Totally unlike her. Maybe she got hit by a personality-swapping quirk. Or, maybe it's that time of the month. Denki should go buy some of that chocolate Mina always swears by. The shiny wrapper stuff she'd almost melted his hand off over when he tried to snag a piece. Yeah, he nods happily, pleased to have a strategy to try. Denki doesn't like seeing his pals all bummed out. Principal Nedzu came to me with a concern. He has determined that, since you all worked full-time at your internships over the semester break, you never really got any time off. Too right. Hanta grumbles. Denki recalls he'd had a particularly tedious 2 weeks of labor. Not even the fun kind of hero work, where you get to take down villains and have grateful, attractive citizens ask for your autograph afterwards. Nope, for all 14 days, Hanta had to get up at 5 a.m. and report at every park in the city. He'd been assigned to use his tape quirk on the growing saplings, wrapping it around their fragile trunks to protect them from deer eating the bark. With so many villain attacks these past few years, heroes have started trying to maneuver fights into clearings that can be easily evacuated and where there will be less risk to surrounding structures. As a result, too many of the city's parks have begun to resemble demolition sites, and Musatafu's beautification committee reached out to the Heroes Commission for help. Apparently, our principal feels this is detrimental to the overall quality of your education. And I agree. 𝗪𝗏 raises an eyebrow at the multitude of surprised faces before him. What? Rest is important for heroes, and for hero students. We take vacations too, you know? Literally no one in the class has ever seen evidence of Eraserhead taking off a day in his life. But even Denki is smart enough not to point that out. He does hear a stifled snort from Shinsu's direction, though. 𝗪𝗏's adopted son probably knows better than any of them how hypocritical he sounds. So with that being said, I have organized a class trip. The room erupts. A class trip? Like a real class trip? No way, it's definitely going to be another training camp from hell. I think I'm busy with my internship, Kiro. Chin up, guys. Training camps are totally manly. Aizawa sighs at his mistrustful students. Denki maintains that they're right to be suspicious. Yes, it will be a real class trip. No training exercises are planned, although I would recommend you keep up with any daily stretching routines. 5 days and 4 nights, and there will be time blocked off for independent sightseeing, providing you stay in your groups. Your pro-hero mentors have already been informed and have agreed to the time away. The volume of the room intensifies exponentially, and Denki is right there with them, excitedly plying their increasingly resentful-looking teacher with more questions. Sightseeing. 𝗵𝗲𝗄. Groups. Can we choose? We can choose, right? Where are we going? It's been so cold lately, you don't think? Okinawa. At the thought of spending almost a week on sunny beaches filled with gorgeous bots, Denki nearly short-circuits. Paradise. Mina and Toru clasp hands, squealing about planning a mall trip to buy new swimsuits, and Kiri suggests making teams for beach volleyball. President Kun stands up and chops his arm authoritatively as he tries to calm them down. Come now, Class 2A. Let us act like the mature professionals we will soon be. Please give your undivided attention to Aizawa-sensei, and wait until he has finished briefing us before you begin your own conversations. Thank you, Ida. No, we are not going to Okinawa. A collective groan meets this statement. Come on, this school has but tons of money, Hanta complains. Yes, and it's not for luxury vacations. We will be going to Hokkaido. What? Hokkaido? It's going to be even colder up there. Toru must have slammed her palms on her desk, judging by the way all her pens leapt up. Too cold for frogs, Kiro. Tsu-chan, you know you're warm-blooded, right? Deku questions nervously. Or is this an aspect of your quirk? I didn't know that. He starts mumbling incoherently, rummaging around in his pack for his latest notebook. Cheer up, gang. I want to try the miso ramen. Denki's starting to feel a little hopeful about all this. Vacations with his best buds are great. Sapporo is great. Ramen is great. Shiroi koibito. Sapporo sweets. Satu rubs his massive hands in delight. Ooh, and do you think we'll be able to catch the start of the winter lights displays? Even Momo is enthused, and Shouto has perked up as well. At least, Denki thinks he has. It's hard to tell with him. We're not going to Sapporo, Aizawa tiredly interjects. Asahikawa, then? No. Where the hell are we going then? Mina shouts, exasperated enough to be rude. Aizawa seems unfazed by her language. It's admittedly nothing compared to what he deals with from Bakugo every day. Wakanai. Wakanai, the class shrieks in horrified disbelief. The tiny community doesn't even deserve to be called a city. With a population of hardly more than 30,000 and no noteworthy tourist attractions, the city's only claim to fame is that it is the northmost of all Japan. We leave next week. If you need warmer clothes, this is your chance to buy them. With that, their teacher who, despite his feigned indifference, fathers them more than most of their parents combined, zips himself back into his sleeping bag. There it is, Denki moans, glumly slumping back down in his seat. Dad-sensei never has good news. There's always a catch. Notes. You guys, this Wikivoyage entry on Wakanai is hilarious. https://n. Wikivoyage. org/wiki/Wakanai. Some of my favorite highlights. In the depth of winter, the thermometer frequently drops below zero. But the 20°-4 degrees Fahrenheit you see inland or across the Okhotsk Bay in Russia are extreme occurrences here, as the air is heated by sea currents. The very strong winds can make it feel like Siberia, though. While there are plenty of attractions on paper, few of them are really that interesting, and hardly anything is worth going out of your way to see. The park also has an eclectic collection of statues and monuments. None of them are particularly pretty, but they sometimes come with interesting stories. Breakwater Dome built in the 1930s. This odd-looking breakwater is a 427m1, 401ft arched hallway supported by 70 Roman-style pillars. It rises over 13m up in the air to provide some protection for the strong winds in the area. It looks entirely out of place, but makes for some good photographs. Harbor Seal Observatory. About 300 seals have decided that the concrete boulders of this small fishing port was a good home. Surprisingly, they seem to get along fine with the fishermen. The city administration has put up a small rudimentary observation hut with windows and a video feed, so the many guests now pouring in don't disturb the seals. Self-service tea is provided free of charge. Nice touch. After she left, chapter text Katsuki. Come on, talk to me. Kitty cat? Don't call me that cutesy bullshit. Fine. 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗂 then. Fuck you. You gonna leave, too? This is my room. Fucking fine. I guess I'll leave then. You know that's not what I sit back down. Katsuki, please. What are you thinking about? You know what? Is it this important to you? Keeping us a secret? Fuck, I don't know. I thought things were fine. Aren't they fine? Chaco doesn't think so. I fucking gathered. I don't know how to feel about it. In a way, this is simpler. But in another way, it's complicated. Yeah. I'm not ashamed of you, Toshi. I know. I don't want you to think. I don't think Chaco does either. She's just, it's not ideal. What am I supposed to do? What? What are we supposed to do? We're a unit, Katsuki. We're going to figure it out together. The three of us. 3 of us, huh? You think there's still 3? Of course, Kat, don't worry. She just needs space, hey. Hey, 𝗵𝗲𝗄. SSHHHH. Tissue. HMPH. Thanks. It's late. Let's sleep. Yeah. Toshi? HM. Thank you. In transit, chapter text, Papa, I'm too hot. Eri whines, fussing with her new parka. It's bright blue with a pale violet fur-trimmed hood, and she'd fallen in love the instant she first saw it. But it's so puffy she can hardly move her arms, and she's already sweltering. Sorry, little listener, but you'll need it where we're going. Papa holds fast to Eri's hand in the crowded airport. They're waiting for Daddy to arrive with Toshi Niai and the rest of the class. Despite her discomfort, Eri is so excited she can hardly breathe. Actually, that still might be the jacket. But it is thrilling. This will be their first family vacation, and Eri's first vacation ever. She has a whole list of things she wants to do. She wrote it in her very best writing, using her very favorite sparkle gel pens, on her very nicest letter paper. The one with little butterflies up the side, that came with matching envelopes and stickers. But she doesn't really have anyone to send mail to, so she decided this was an even better use for it. The finished list has been folded neatly and tucked securely in her crossbody rabbit purse, but she remembers it by heart anyway. Perfect vacation checklist. Sit next to Toshi Niai on the plane, share snacks with Toshi Niai, sightsee. All the sights, ride on Daddy's shoulders, ride on Papa's shoulders. When Daddy gets tired, ride on Midori Niai's shoulders the rest of the day. Pet a seal. Daddy said it's too dangerous. But I bet I can make friends with one. Ride a seal. Haven't asked permission, but one time 𝗬𝗎 said it's better to ask for forgiveness. And 𝗬𝗎 is very wise. Spend a night in the girls' cabin slumber party. Super special floaty trick = pillow fight advantage. Try new foods with Toshi Niai, lots of sweets. The entire list runs the full length of the page, and Eri is very proud of it. A loud ruckus echoing from the other end of the terminal has passengers looking around in confusion, with a few becoming fearful of a villain attack, judging by the way they've hunched protectively over their luggage and are eyeing the exits. Papa laughs and ruffles Eri's hair. Well, Eri thinks that's probably what Papa meant to do, anyhow. Her vision is obstructed by faux fur as her hood is pressed down further, covering her eyes. That'll be them. Eri-chan. Midori Niai, Eri calls in response. struggling to raise her puffy arms high enough to lower her hood and locate him. Suddenly, it's pulled off, catching only slightly on her horn, and humongous grass green eyes are before her. With a gleeful cry, she throws her arms around Midori, and he hugs her firmly in return, lifting her as he does so. Over the top of his broccoli hair, she can see the rest of the class approaching. For some reason, nobody looks like they're all that happy to be here. Maybe they're just tired, which makes sense. Eri tossed and turned for hours last night. How could she possibly sleep, with today to look forward to? At the back of the approaching class are Daddy and Toshi. She wonders if Daddy was hurting the students and he kind of looks like the black shaggy dog she saw once in a movie, skillfully driving sheep into pens. Eri giggles at the thought, picturing the members of Class 2A as a rainbow flock of fluffy chaos sheep, causing mayhem with their sheep quirks. What would be sillier, a red and white 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐽 sheep slipping about on his accidental ice rink, or a floating 𝐒𝐭𝐚𝐲 sheep that keeps drifting off into the sky, Daddy frantically yipping and chasing after her. Sheepdog Daddy barks orders to the class and gets them shuffling into the queue. Papa asks Eri why she keeps laughing, but she's not sure she can properly explain. They only have a short time to wait before their flight is called, and Eri is trembling with eagerness when it's finally time to board. She's never flown before, well, not on a plane, at least. Technically, she's flown loads of times before. But this is different. This is an airplane. And no matter how many impressive quirks Eri sees day to day, she knows that airplanes are, without a doubt, the coolest. It's a small plane, just big enough for their group. Daddy says they were lucky to find a plane flying directly to their destination, rather than needing a layover in Sapporo. Papa accuses Daddy of pulling strings so he wouldn't have to deal with getting his class through 3 consecutive airports, or subjecting the general public on a larger plane to this class. Daddy harems, but doesn't actually defend himself. So Eri suspects there's something to Papa's theory. She quickly claims a window seat and beams at Toshi when he sits beside her, just like he'd promised. Palmu sits behind her, and Eri expects Choco to take the seat behind Toshi. She must have had plans with her other friends, though, because she walks directly to the very back of the plane. That's disappointing, but Eri supposes that at least there's the slumber party to look forward to. While they wait to take off, Eri digs into her carry-on and finds the pack of strawberry Pocky. She offers some to Toshi, who nibbles on it, slightly bemused by her delight. Already 2 things she can check off her list. Toshi lets her squeeze his hand as tight as she can when the plane heads down the runway, quickly picking up speed. Why had she thought planes are cool? How much does all this metal weigh? Could even Choco lift it if it fell? It's impossible, right, for something so heavy to stay in the sky. Eri-chan, open your eyes. Look out the window. Cautiously, she cracks one open, then the other. Then she gasps and smushes her nose flat on the glass, trying to see as much as possible. She's never been so high. They're in the clouds. They're above the clouds. It's so beautiful, the smooth, white expanse, so beautiful and untouchable and perfect. Overwhelmed, she starts to bawl, and her Oniasons panic. Eri? Oi oi, pipsqueak, what's wrong? You scared? Eri shakes her head furiously and pulls away when Toshi tries to tug her back from the heavenly view. Blinking tears out of her eyes, she edges even closer, not wanting to miss a second. Not even 2 hours later, they arrive at Wakkanai Airport and board the bus chartered to take them to their lodgings. Too tired to keep her eyes on the admittedly monotonous countryside, Eri falls asleep on her big brother's shoulder. When she awakes, he is carrying her up the creaky wooden steps of a small cabin. She yawns and blearily looks around, then wriggles out of Toshi hold, wanting to explore. Daddy booked a campground. It's modest, but that was ideal, because he was able to reserve the whole thing for them. 6 cabins stand in a rough semicircle, and across from them is a mess hall with a rudimentary kitchen. Eri skips from cabin to cabin, poking her head inside to check on the unpacking students. The 6 girls have taken 2 of the cabins, and the boys are split between another 3. The last cabin, the one her brother had attempted to carry her into, is for her and Daddy and Papa. She wishes 𝗏𝗏 was bunking with them, too. In the center of the campsite is a large fire pit, with logs arranged around it for seating. Struck by inspiration, she's seen this in an anime. Eri pulls out her checklist and flips it over to add one more item. Sing songs around the campfire, everybody together. Camp Wakanai chapter text. Hitoshi observes that, despite all the whinging and groaning in the days leading up to their departure, his classmates seemed to be having fun. Last night, they'd piled the fire pit high with wood, and even though at least 2 of their class have the ability to ignite it as easily as breathing, they'd spent nearly half an hour coaxing it into flame the traditional way. By the time it was properly crackling, night had fallen. They all retrieved bowls of curry prepared by Katsuki, and Hizashi, thankfully his papa, was able to restrain the blonde from spicing it to his tongue-dissolving preference, and ate in the light of the bonfire. Eri had struggled to stay awake, and twice Hitoshi had to save her from falling face first in her bowl. But his little sister refused to go to bed until everyone sang a few camp songs. Fortunately, this wasn't at all awkward. Several of his classmates were only too enthusiastic, and the singing ended up going long into the night. He even heard Katsuki's quiet baritone, though he was wise enough not to mention it. Hitoshi didn't care to sing, but he raised his eyes to the stars as he listened, Eri fast asleep in his arms, their papa's beatboxing providing a strangely beautiful backdrop to Jiru's melody. Now Hitoshi wakes on the first morning of their stay. He remembers not to sit upright too quickly, but still narrowly avoids braining himself on Kat's bunk overhead. Judging from the very loud thunk and, oh God, owuwa, Hitoshi hears moments later, Kaminari was not so lucky. You okay, bro? No dude, I think I cracked my skull open. Aw man, no way. Too bad recovery girl's not here. You crybabies need that old pedo kissing all your boo-boos? Katsuki snorts derisively from the doorway. Hitoshi's not surprised that their vacation wasn't enough to make the blonde miss his usual early morning jog. Pikachu's fine, just lost a couple more brain cells. Even with these harsh words, Hitoshi grins, noticing the way Katsuki's eyes run over the other blonde's head to assess the injury. He really is the biggest softy, under all that. What a ridiculous Ppamigu-chan we have, a Choco. At least you guys have beds to hit your heads on, Siro grumbles from the floor. Momo made him a sleeping bag when they realized they're short a bed, and Hitoshi actually envies it. It looks a lot more comfortable than the scratchy sheets that came with these bunk beds, bleached countless times for countless bodies. After taking turns at their cabin's small washroom, the 5 young men trudge out into the chilly dawn light, still stretching and yawning. Well, 4 of them do. Katsuki leads the way with a brisk pace, ever the morning person. Hitoshi's tempted to just turn around and go back to bed, but his heartless boyfriend threatens to withhold breakfast if he does. Thankfully, his dads are already in the kitchen, and there is coffee. 𝗏𝗏 wordlessly hands him a steaming mug as soon as he enters, and Hitoshi can honestly say he has never loved his adopted father more than in this moment. He clutches the hot mug like the lifeline it truly is, watching Kat join Hizashi at the counter. Between the 2 of them, the kitchen soon fills with the smell of pancakes, eggs, and bacon frying. Where's Eri? Hitoshi asks, and 𝗏𝗏 tilts his head in the direction of the window. She wanted to explore a little. She knows to keep the cabins in sight. His dad's voice is determinedly casual, but Hitoshi doesn't miss the way his stubbled jaw tightens. He knows their parents have tried to be a little more relaxed for Eri, wanting her to feel as normal as possible, but it's hard for them to loosen the reins. Allowing her to be entirely out of sight, even in a remote place like this, is a big step for them. I'll go let her know breakfast is almost ready, Hitoshi offers, and both his parents nod quickly, unable to mask their relief. Sister thus retrieved, albeit with dirty knees and leaves in her hair. They sit down to breakfast. Everyone's up now, and the mess hall is full of raucous noise. Hitoshi scans the room for 𝗧𝗪𝗏 and sees her sitting with her cabin mates, 𝗬𝗪 and 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐾. She's laughing at something 𝗬𝗪 said, and Hitoshi warms at the sound. His girlfriend, and she is still their girlfriend. He's sure, despite Kat's fears, despite a week of silence has looked far too sad this past week. It's nice to see her smiling again. God, he misses her. But Hitoshi knows better than to push, and Katsuki's too stubborn by nature to reach out anyways. So they've let her be. 𝗧𝗪𝗏 glances in his direction, and Hitoshi doesn't look away, deliberately allowing their eyes to meet. She smiles again, this time shyly, this time just for him, and waves a little. Heart thudding painfully, Hitoshi whips out his phone. B-chat. Mine be. Talk later? Space B. Yeah, mine be cat. Boom be K. After breakfast, they assemble in front of the mess hall, dressed warmly for the day's itinerary. Where's the bus? Kaminari asks, looking around. Is there another one coming? The bus that dropped them off yesterday drove off as soon as they'd collected their things. Aren't you all going to be heroes? What do you need a bus for? Dad says, stretching his legs. Hitoshi sighs miserably as understanding dawns. Apparently they will be touring on foot, which is horrifying. Today's destination is 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐻, where they plan to visit the monument marking the northernmost point of Japan. It's at least 30 kilometers from here. Kaminari starts crying. I knew it, he sobs into Kirishima's shoulder. The redhead readily pulls him into his arms and pats him fondly on the back. I knew it. It's never just a class trip. Though the sun is bright in the sky, we find ourselves in the darkest place on earth. Takoyami tucks the tip of his beak into his scarf. Beside him, Satu digs an emergency muffin out of his pocket and desolately chows down. Gee, I'd sure love to join you guys, but I'm staying here to prep things for dinner later. Hizashi grins wickedly, not looking sorry in the slightest to be missing the fun. Eri-chan, what do you say? Wanna be my sous chef, little listener? Papa, no, please, can I go with them? Eri looks devastated at the thought of being left behind, and several students clutch their hearts in agony at the tragic expression on her pleading face. Sorry, kiddo, you won't be able to keep up. 𝗎𝗪 ruffles her hair placatingly. Tomorrow we'll be taking the public bus. Its route runs only Monday to Friday. Oh, thank God we won't be running every day. Mina whispers loudly enough to be heard clearly by everyone. Hitoshi agrees. I'll carry the little squirt, Bakugo announces suddenly. Hitoshi turns to see his scarlet eyes fixed on Eri's wobbly bottom lip. Push over, Hitoshi thinks, barely restraining himself from some very out-of-character beaming. 𝗎𝗪 seems like he instantly wants to dismiss the idea, but Eri visibly brightens, almost blinding in her hopeful joy, and their parents are helpless to deny her. You're sure? 𝗎𝗪's voice is dripping with reluctance. I'll take a turn if Kakin gets tired. Shut up, Deku. Like I would. She weighs as much as a freaking wet cat. Fine, then. I'm sure you all understand what the consequences will be if anything happens to her. The class shivers as one, and in unison shouts, Yes, sir. A hellish 2.5 hours later, Ochako drops to the ground, fighting back the urge to vomit. At least a couple of her classmates have already lost that battle, and Deku-kun is using his quirk to carry both Kaminari and Aoyama. Still, they've made it, and the view is not worth it. Then again, very few things are worth running 30 kilometers for. Nausea defeated at last, Ochako stands, hot breath misting in the air as she tries to admire the 𝗧𝗪𝗵𝐶𝐵 monument. It's very sharp. No, she corrects, poignant. It's very poignant. How lucky are we to see the famous northmost point of Japan? Okay, her attempt to hype up the moment isn't working. In fairness to the northmost point of Japan, well, of Hokkaido technically, there's an uninhabitable island somewhere north of here. But that sounds much less dramatic. She has more important concerns right now, and they make it really hard to pay much attention to anything else. Two concerns, actually. They're right over there, climbing the steps of the monument with Iri between them, both her hands in theirs. Her boys. It's been crummy, avoiding them for a week. But every time she felt tempted to reach out, she could feel words bubbling up inside of her. And they were all the wrong ones. Words to hurt, words to shame. So she forced herself to stay away, until she could find words she wouldn't regret. The time to herself helped a lot, helped her see her choices with more clarity. It's not her decision whether they tell others about their relationship. Not her decision alone, that is. So she had to ask herself, what is her decision she can make, all on her own? Which worst-case scenario does she fear more? Staying with them, and forever staying a secret, or leaving them behind? She watches the backs of the two young men, watches them turn to lovingly gaze down at the ecstatic child hopping up and down between them. It wasn't a hard choice, in the end. She wonders when they'll get a chance to talk privately, and a moment later Aizawa-sensei is answering the question for her. Once you've recovered, take this opportunity to eat your lunches. You can make your way back to camp at any time, but you must stay in groups of at least 3 or more. You must have a well-charged phone with you at all times, and you must be back before 6. Otherwise, he adds, glaring at them all menacingly, I will come find you. His tone indicates with no room for doubt that should it come to that, it had better be because their lives are in mortal danger, or he will personally ensure that they soon will be. Can I stay with Toshi Niai? Iri-chan pleads, and Ochako sees her chance. I'll join them too, Aizawa-sensei. Sound good, Iri-chan? Iri-chan claps in delight as her father sighs in defeat. Very well. They sit on the steps together to eat, and Iri-chan fills the silence with her chattering. And there's hundreds of seals there, and seal babies, and they're all friends with the fishermen. And there's a little viewing hut, and please can we stop there on the way back? Sure thing, Pipsqueak. What's another 5 kilometers? I ain't soft. Katsuki grins at Ochako's and Toshi's matching groans. For a moment, it's like nothing happened, like it was just another mission keeping them apart this past week. This time, they cheat. Ochako activates her quirk on all 4 of them, and concentrates on keeping her lunch down as Katsuki blasts them all into the sky. Weightless and powered by explosions, they rocket through the air, Iri-chan squealing in delight, while her brother holds her tightly to them. Ochako gets one last frightening glimpse of Aizawa-sensei's ghost white, horrified face before they leave the site behind them. Uh-oh, that's going to be quite the lecture later. But for now they are free, flying through the air like a lopsided, violent bird of destruction. In a breathlessly short time, they arrive at Harbor Seal Observatory. They are the only visitors. Hitoshi suggests they go warm up in the small building overlooking the beach, but Iri-chan insists she's fine, that the view is better here. I'm cold, though, Ochako whines a bit childishly in her mind, grateful that she wore her fluffiest scarf and mittens. Iri-chan gazes at the multitude of fat, barking seals, totally enraptured. It's the best opportunity they're likely to get, and the 3 students walk just a few meters away to keep the conversation private. Iri makes no protest, likely not even noticing. There are hundreds of her beloved animals sprawled on the beach and chunks of ice floe, and some of them are noticeably smaller. She was right about the babies. Sure she won't be needing them anytime soon. Ochako leaves her to her bliss. Ochako faces 2 of the people she cares about more than anyone frighteningly. They might be the ones she cares about the most, or they could be, someday. An icy sea breeze blows her hair out of her face, and she blinks, tearing a little at the harshness of it. Well, cheeks, spit it out. Everything about Katsuki's posture screams that he's on the defensive, hands in his pockets and shoulders hunched. Like he's bracing himself, shielding himself from what she's going to say. She did that, put that hesitation, that fear into him. She doesn't regret it, though. She can't. Not if she believes she is as worthy as either of them. Not if she believes her voice is just as valuable. Taking a deep, shuddering breath that rakes frozen blades over her suddenly raw throat, she gives them the words she has found. I'm not sorry for what I said. And I'm not sorry that I left the way I did, even though I know it must have hurt. What you need to understand is, I've been hurting too. This has been hurting me. 𝐒𝐭𝐻𝐲 gestures between them, and both Hitoshi and Katsuki flinch. But she persists. It hurts when someone asks you if we're dating, or if you and Hitoshi are dating, and you say no. I have to hear that denial of us. It hurts when someone asks me if I'm seeing someone, and I have to tell them I'm not. She sighs, rubs her mittened hands together over the sore spot in her chest. There's this student in another class. No, I won't tell you who they confessed to me. And they were perfectly lovely, and in different circumstances I would have given them a chance. But I had to say no, and I couldn't soften the blow by telling them why. People aren't automatically jerks just because they like us, Katsuki. So yeah, this hurts a lot. But she forces herself to meet their eyes, ruby and amethyst, fear concealed by anger in one pair, compassion warring with concern in another. But not being together hurts more. Hitoshi relaxes noticeably at this, while Katsuki remains as stiff as the ice the seals recline on. If you're still willing to have me, I still want to be here. Even if it hurts when we can't go on dates, or even hold hands. I want this, truly, I do. And I'll respect your desire to keep us a secret. 𝐒𝐭𝐲, we still want you, of course, we do. Hitoshi closes the distance between them, and brings an arm around 𝐒𝐭𝐲's shoulder. She almost weeps at the relief of it, this warmth she's missed, that she'd willingly walked away from. How glorious it is to be here again. But Katsuki still hasn't moved. Right, Katsuki? Hitoshi prompts, and 𝐒𝐭𝐲 feels sick. Has he changed his mind? Is this too much to ask, being upfront in her dislike at their situation, but still expecting to remain together? Katsuki looks like he wants to reach for her, but he withdraws his hands after the reflexive twitch, face wary. Cheeks, I still can't, I don't want to tell anyone yet. I don't know when I'll be ready, but I promise this won't be forever. Just, shit. Please just wait for me a little longer. A year ago, if someone told her Bakugo Katsuki would say, please to her, in any context at all, she'd have dragged them straight to Recovery Girl. It's enough. Pathetically, it's more than enough. She's in so deep, and of her own volition, she is ready to fall even further. Okay, I can do that, Katsuki. I can wait for you. She opens her arms and hopes, making a sound like a choked-off sob, but surely that's not what it was. This is Katsuki. The blonde practically dives forward, and soon they are all clutching at each other. They're not crying. It's just the bitter salt in that cold sea breeze. 𝐒𝐭𝐻𝐲 regains her senses after a few minutes and blushes, glancing at Eri-chan to see if she noticed their overt affection. Eri is gone. Time stops. 𝐒𝐭𝐻𝐲 opens her mouth to call for her, to bring her absence to their notice. Where is she? There? On the ice. Approaching the seals. Eri, no, 𝐒𝐭𝐻𝐲 whispers, and she's running. Behind her she hears the boys shout as they try to figure out why. Then their pitch raises to a roar when they see. But she's already vaulted the wall. There are babies there, baby seals, and the parents bark in alarm at the small human coming near. Eri freezes, realizes she's made a mistake. But too late, and the threatened animals follow nature's instruction, preparing to attack to defend their young. 𝐒𝐭𝐻𝐲 skids and slips on the ice. An explosion indicates Bakugo will catch up in mere seconds. But its seconds they no longer have. The loud boom is the last straw for the seal that has advanced on small, quaking Eri. 𝐒𝐭𝐻𝐲 dives for the child just as the seal lumbers forward, grabs her, throws her to the safety of Bakugo's arms. He catches her. He screams. 200 pounds of angry seal body checks 𝐒𝐭𝐻𝐲, mercilessly pummeling all breath from her, and drives her down into the water. Like a 1-2 punch, a wave slams her back down before she can collect herself. can bring air back into her bruised torso. Her soaked mittens cling to her frozen hands, covering her quirk-activating finger pads. But even if she had the wherewithal to remove them, what would be the use? Despite her struggles, 𝗧𝗪𝐽𝐻 is quickly dragged below, and her thoughts are reduced to a stream of shouted impressions. Cold, no. Cold heavy, clothes are heavy, shoes are heavy, sinking. I'm sinking, fight, cold, fight hurts. Air hurts, air. Chapter text, Chako ni. Chako. Toshi's caught up Katsuki roughly shoves the wailing child into his arms. He dives in after his girlfriend. Of course he does. There was never another option. It's got nothing to do with being a damn hero. The day is overcast, and the water horrendously dark. He may as well be swimming through ice. How can water be so fucking cold without freezing solid? Furiously, Katsuki pumps his arms and legs, propelling himself further down through the 𝐒𝐭𝐞𝐲 depths. He's a strong swimmer, the product of growing up a 10-minute walk from the ocean. This is nothing like the friendly blue waves crested merry white off the shores of Misutafu. Here, the currents that had at first slowed his descent now wrap chilly arms around him, their malicious siren calls encouraging him deeper, inviting him to stay. He catches a murky glimpse of pink and surges after it, lungs screaming. Katsuki reaches 𝗧𝗪𝐽𝐻 and holds fast to her jacket with numb fingers, fighting to bring them to the surface with only his kicking legs. His muscles are burning with the strain, but they cannot match the agony in his oxygen-deprived chest. Air, he needs air, he needs to breathe. Cold wind shocks as they finally surface, and Katsuki gratefully gulps at it, even as he feels the water coating his body freeze to his skin. Spotting a nearby outcropping of ice, he makes for it, carefully keeping 𝗧𝗪𝐽𝐻's face above water. Is she breathing? No, she's not breathing. They reach the ice, and Katsuki tries to push 𝗧𝗪𝐽𝐻 up onto it, out of the water. But he can't find purchase, though he frantically scrabbles, trying to grab hold. In response to the cold, his body is narrowing blood vessels, trying to preserve the warmth in his core and vital organs, and his limbs and extremities are fast losing strength and feeling. Crying in rage and helplessness, he bobs in the water, trying to hold 𝗧𝗪𝐽𝐻 tightly against him, trying to warm her. But she's not breathing. Katsuki, Hitoshi is there, pulling them up, dragging their bodies onto the ice. She's not breathing, Katsuki gasps through chattering teeth. And Eri, where's Eri? Safe inside, she's got my phone, contacting Aizawa now. Hitoshi replies briskly, already positioning 𝗧𝗪𝐽𝐻 to receive CPR. She flops limply, white, pale as a corpse. No, shut up. Shut the fuck up. Cheeks will be fine. I wasn't too late. I wasn't. They all know CPR. They've all taken the advanced first aid courses essential to their future hero careers. But somehow, this is the first time Katsuki's seen it used on anything but a training dummy. Hitoshi kneels at her side and carefully wraps one hand around the back of 𝗧𝗪𝐽𝐻's head, her brown hair wetly clinging to her skull, strands glittering with frost and salt. Then, he gently presses two fingers beneath her chin and tilts it slightly back. Leaning forward, Hitoshi pinches her nose and cups a hand around her blue lips to prevent air from escaping as he gives her 2 breaths. Katsuki sees her chest rise and fall with them, so at least there's no blockage, but she lays deathly still as soon as Hitoshi pulls away. She's not breathing. Katsuki watches, frozen and ineffectual, still panting to catch his own breath. Hitoshi presses the heel of one palm between 𝗧𝗪𝐽𝐻's breasts and lays his other atop it, centering all his upper body weight over her. Arms rigidly straight, he begins the rhythmic life-saving thrusts. 1, 2, 3. The silent count, the steady is all Katsuki can hear. A full 30 compressions pass, and Hitoshi pauses to give her 2 breaths. She's not breathing. Compressions resume, and Hitoshi's face is sketched in panic, even while he concentrates, mouth moving soundlessly as he tracks his thrusts. An audible crack of some bone breaking, likely her sternum, shatters the air. Fuck, cheeks. Tears roll down Hitoshi's face, but he completes the set. He gives her a breath, and another. And then she coughs, at first weakly, then violently. Hitoshi quickly rolls her on her side, still operating on drills trained into them until they became automatic, and puts her into the recovery position. 𝗂𝐴𝐻𝐿 gags and heaves, vomiting salt water. She's breathing. Oh, thank fuck, she's breathing, she's breathing. 𝗧𝐵𝐾 drags himself to her, gingerly places a hand on her side, basking in the feel of her ribs expanding independently once again. Okay, Hitoshi mutters, obviously trying to keep it together. Okay, we have to get you too warm. Cat, can you walk? He grunts affirmation, forcing himself up. He can't feel his feet, but he can walk. He will walk. Toshi scoops up cheeks, and they both shudder at her pained cry. She still hasn't spoken or opened her eyes, but she's breathing. She's breathing. 𝗧𝐵𝐾 stumbles behind them, and the three make their way to the viewing hut. By the time they reach it, a beaten-up blue car arrives, screeching when it takes the turn into the parking lot about twice as fast as it legally should have. It doesn't look like a rental. Knowing their teacher, 𝗧𝐵𝐾 wouldn't be surprised if he'd commandeered the vehicle of some luckless Wakaini resident for hero purposes. Guess that license comes in handy. Aizawa throws open the driver's door and leaps out, eyes glowing red and hair whipping wildly like Medusa's snakes. He looks them over, transparently relieved to see them all present, Eri rushing out of the building behind them. What did Eri tell him? 𝗧𝐵𝐾 wonders dully, unable to find humor in their circumstances. That 2 of the students he's been training for a year and a half were killed by seals? Not even a fucking stupid seal-themed villain. Fucking seals. Get in, problem children. Aizawa orders. 𝗧𝐵𝐾 collapses in the back seat and Hitoshi arranges 𝗂𝐴𝐻𝐿 across it, resting her head in 𝗧𝐵𝐾's lap. She's cold to the touch, even to 𝗧𝐵𝐾's frozen hands. She's not shivering. Eri, still crying, climbs into the front passenger seat and buckles herself in. Aizawa squeezes her hand, then turns the ignition key. Hitoshi enters last, slides under 𝗂𝐴𝐻𝐿's legs in the seat across from 𝗧𝐵𝐾, and holds her securely in place as the vehicle backs out onto the highway. Daddy, it was my fault, I'm so sorry. Eri sobs, tearing at her silver hair in her shame and grief. 𝗧𝐵𝐾 growls, looking up from the hand he's been steadily rubbing up and down Cheek's arm. We were supposed to be watching you, 𝗵𝘃𝐿. It's not you to blame. Aizawa's eyes flash to him in the rear-view mirror and 𝗧𝐵𝐾 returns the glare, daring Aizawa to contradict him, or to double down on the guilt, to list all the ways 𝗧𝐵𝐾's failed today. But he says nothing, merely returning his gaze to road as he switches lanes. Will 𝗂𝐴𝐻𝐿 be okay? Eri sniffles. Again, 𝗧𝐵𝐾 moves his hands to Angel Face's ribs, feeling them move. Up, down, in, out. Steady. 𝗧𝐵𝐾 answers. But it's not Eri he directs the response to. Looking to Toshi, he nods. Yeah, our Cheeks is tough. She'll be okay. Hospital. Chapter text. Thankfully, Wakaini is sufficiently well populated to have its own small hospital. But it's not prestigious enough to attract any doctors with powerful healing quirks. They are equipped to aid them, however, and rush 𝗧𝐵𝐾 and Chaco to their emergency room the moment they all arrive. Predictably, Kat snaps at anyone who approaches, telling them to look after Chaco instead. Only once they manage to convince him that she is receiving the best care they can offer does he finally relent and allow them to look him over. He really is fine, to Hitoshi's relief. Once they strip him of his frozen, salt-covered clothes and give him a clean hospital gown and a couple of blankets, 𝗧𝐵𝐾 quickly warms. They still ask him to recline on the emergency room bed for a couple hours, though, citing the risk of circumrescue collapse. In worst-case scenarios, survivors of extreme cold exposure can still succumb to cardiac arrest hours after rescue if they try to stand or move around too much, too soon. Hitoshi's not sure how likely that is to occur in someone so obviously vital as 𝗧𝐵𝐾. But he echoes the doctor's orders anyhow, physically pushing his boyfriend down when the obstinate blonde tries to ignore them. He doesn't want to see both of them near death today. When 𝐒𝐬𝐽 hears this, he abruptly stops his protests and lays down to wait for the prescribed window of time to pass, with a quiet patience that is honestly eerie. Unable to reach 𝗧𝗪 amidst the swarm of medical staff, Hitoshi is only too eager to lie next to his boyfriend on the narrow bed. Taking advantage of their momentary privacy, he pulls the unusually compliant shorter man to his chest and buries his nose in salt-matted hair. Hitoshi inhales deeply, seeking his familiar caramel smell beneath the pungent ocean stench. There was a minute earlier, when they were both beneath the waves, that he'd thought he'd lost them both. For a terrifying heartbeat, Hitoshi was a child again, standing alone with the hero who'd come too late. Not surprisingly, Ochako is significantly worse off than 𝗬𝗪𝗏. Earlier, when they'd changed her into her gown on the other side of the curtain partition, Hitoshi had caught a glimpse through a gap in the fabric. There's a massive bruise blooming from her hip all the way up and over her right shoulder blade, presumably from where the seal struck her. Conscious now, Ochako gasps with every small movement, and Hitoshi tries not to feel guilty about the break that must be aching sharply with every movement. If not for his actions, she would have died. Upon this stark realization, Hitoshi suddenly throws a hand to his mouth, shaking. With everyone safe, the full severity of the danger that passed catches up with him, and he is sick to confront it. Kat shouts an oi in alarm as Hitoshi tumbles out of the bed and whirls desperately until he spots a sink good enough. He collapses over it, emptying his guts, hurling uncontrollably until there's nothing left but bile to regurgitate. Once his awareness returns, he feels someone stroking back his hair, keeping it clean out of his face. "Dad," he croaks, recognizing the smell of 𝗬𝗪's aftershave even through his acid-scorched nostrils. His adoptive father runs broad strokes up and down Hitoshi's back, and he closes his eyes, leaning into the comfort. "You kids must be out to kill me," 𝗬𝗪 grumbles, but his hands are gentle as he continues to calm Hitoshi. On the bed behind them, 𝗬𝗪𝗏 huffs. "Ha, ha," Hitoshi attempts a weak chuckle. "Is there any news?" "I just spoke to the doctor. Uraraka's temperature is improving, and they're happy with the results of her tests. They want to keep her for observation for a few more hours before they discharge her. But unless anything changes, she won't need anything more." "And her chest?" "X-rays show a minor fracture to her sternum. There's nothing they can do for that here. On its own, it should heal in 6 to 8 weeks. But Recovery Girl will be able to heal it in minutes when we get back. For the remainder of our stay, Uraraka will be on bed rest to avoid aggravating the injury." Hitoshi nods. He wishes he could gather his family up and whisk them back home, but he supposes it wouldn't be fair to the class. No matter their complaints, he knows they've all been excited for the chance at a handful of days outside of real life, real responsibilities. Even if the three of them just stay around the campsite for the next few days, at least they'll be together. No emergencies to rush off to, or assignments to complete. It's well past nightfall when they finally leave the hospital. They climb back into the same blue car, which Dad idly mentions he'll return to its owner tomorrow. Again, Hitoshi and his partners sit together in the back seat, but thankfully this time all three are upright. In the middle, Hitoshi takes pleasure in the feel of both his boyfriend and girlfriend slumping sideways to lean against him. He reaches his right arm across Ochako's lap and holds the outside of her far leg, bracing his arm like an extra seat belt to ensure no turns or sudden stops jostle her. She murmurs her thanks and is asleep in minutes, as is 𝗬𝗪𝗏, both exhausted from the trials of the day. He loves them. Is it strange that he's never said it? They express their affection for one another in 1,000 small ways. Sure, 𝗧𝗪 is sweet and kind, and makes friends as easily as she smiles. A jealous lover could hate that about her. But knowingly or not, 𝗧𝗪 makes Hitoshi and 𝗬𝗪𝗏 feel special in the way she gives them more than the bubblegum persona she lets the world see. Yeah, that's part of who she is, a cheery young woman determined to see the best in everyone. and who's always ready to extend a hand. But it's far from all. She's as witty as she is warm, with a sense of humor that's shockingly dirty and a little mean. Her thirst for action and readiness to throw herself into a fight is a match for Katsuki's, even if it's not as obvious due to the lack of explosions. Unlike the blonde, however, Ochako strength is in her ability to trust. While Katsuki guards himself violently against all but the most forbearing, Ochako trusts freely, ready to believe in others until proven otherwise. And oh, Katsuki, their crotchety little 𝗵𝗃𝗄𝐶han, prideful to his detriment and flawed as a kintsugi bowl. To an outsider who's never spent any real amount of time with Katsuki, it might appear that he merely tolerates his friends at best. But there are depths to the man that only the very patient and resilient can uncover. And to 𝐻𝗳𝗃, each glimmer of the surprisingly vulnerable soul beneath is worth more than any treasure. Sure, some would say, but why bother? Why not pursue someone else? Anyone else, someone who doesn't growl at all who approach. Hitoshi's grateful that most people think those things. Anyone unwilling to do the work is simply undeserving. Katsuki is his, just like Ochako is. And if he wasn't theirs, he'd never be able to taste Katsuki's homemade bentos again, or laugh at Chako's burnt and misshapen shortbread cookies. He couldn't take the same extreme risks or leap so blindly in class exercises, knowing implicitly that his partners will be there to catch him, because they're always watching one another, always aware. He wouldn't know the soft wonder of Chako's curves and dips, of the way Kat moans when he loses himself and forgets all pretenses, of her lust-filled eyes and sinful grin, of his playful nips to the inside of their wrists. Growing up, Hitoshi had become accustomed to solitude. It festered bitterly within him, and after a time he began to use it, lean on it. Society was twisted. Well, he'd be twisted to bend and curve through and around all those weighted hoops they set before him. Be a hero, no matter what, a good one, the best one. Show them that those they assume to be villains can turn out to be exemplary. Teach them all to see past their prejudice. But he didn't take joy in the journey, and there was no one waiting to greet him at every hurdle he cleared. Now he has a wealth of people supporting him, and he is greedy enough to claim 2 of them as his, for as long as they'll have him. They express their affection for one another in 1,000 small ways, but none of them have said the words. Hitoshi loves them, and now that he's articulated it to himself, he needs to fasten his teeth shut to keep the words from hissing free, taking flight. Not here, not now, but perhaps soon. Girl's Cabin. Chapter text: Sue wasn't joking when she said Wakani is too cold for frogs. Kiro. Her quirk's many amphibian attributes include a propensity for hibernation to trigger in low enough climes. So in preparation for this trip, she'd packed layers upon layers to wear. Thick woolen socks, long underwear designed for extreme mountain climbers, beautifully knitted sweaters in lime green and butter yellow from her mother, clumsily made lumpy hats and scarves from her little brother and sister. Usually, Sue has all the power and grace of a poison dart frog. Right now, though, she feels like a warty toad on a moldering log. Her rotten mood only sours further when she finally gets back to camp scant minutes before their curfew to learn something's happened to Ochako's group. Curse this miserable place, Kiro. Her happy-go-floaty friend had better be okay. Sue sighs and lightly slaps her face with her tongue. She doesn't like this nasty temperament. It doesn't suit her all. Damn cold, Kiro. Izuku is beside himself with worry, of course. When present, Mike Sensei and Ida-kun convince him it would only be troublesome for the waylaid group if he rushes off to meet them at the hospital. Izuku settles for frenetic muttering and pacing that quickly erodes a neat circular path in the clearing. Eventually, Todoroki bodily drags him off to the kitchen to take his mind off useless hypothesizing. The two resume work on dinner preparation, since present Mike is too busy with his own fretting to continue cooking. They're quietly eating hot dogs around the fire. Their first dinner was burned. Apparently Todoroki had thought of another way to distract Izuku, and it had worked too well, to both of their extreme embarrassment. Kiro, when an unfamiliar car pulls into the drive. Present Mike hollers and runs over, wrenching open the passenger side before the car has even fully stopped. Out leaps 𝐒𝐬𝐽, eyes red-rimmed, and Yamada-sensei quickly pulls his daughter into his arms. Aizawa-sensei steps out and opens the door behind his after, and Tsu hears some brief murmurs before her friend is gently helped out. Ochako-chan winces, so she was injured. Are the others all right? But when she notices her entire class anxiously watching, she smiles broadly and waves a little. Hi everyone, sorry we're late. Underscore 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 𝗧𝗓𝗏 is acting strangely. By now, they all know the details of what happened. Once they knew everyone would be okay, the questions had quickly turned to teasing. Kaminari in particular has had several episodes of hysteria, rolling on the floor cackling at the thought that 3 of the best hero students in the country were nearly bested by some fat, adorable seals, of all things. Ochako-chan has been very good about the ribaldry directed her way, laughing along until the pain of her fractured sternum cuts it short. Though this will make Kaminari feel briefly repentant, it's not long before he finds another opportunity to crack a pun about the dangers of high blubber diets. Yo, easy bake oven, make me a club. A club? Bakugo-san, you can't be thinking of taking revenge on those poor seals. Momo-chan protests anxiously. It's not for the seals, Bakugo growls darky, looking meaningfully towards Kaminari, who is still wiping tears of laughter out of his eyes. Sensing danger, a shiver runs across the electric user's frame, and his face does a 180. From easygoing jokester to someone attending the funeral of a dear old aunt. Later on, Shinsu-kun compels Kaminari to serenade the class with the full Haruhi Suzumiya opening dance moves included. Kaoka-chan mercilessly records it. Tsu suspects this is not unrelated. The purple-haired night owl rarely uses his quirk for anything frivolous, despite the endless possibilities for entertainment. But while most of the class takes extra opportunities to linger around Ochako-chan and praise her for rescuing 𝗧𝗏𝗏chan from the deadly seal menace, 𝗧𝗏chan herself has been scarcely seen. The child had been running circles around them all non-stop when they first arrived, but now only emerges from the cabin she shares with her adoptive fathers at mealtime. Even then, she hides behind Yamada-sensei and responds to no one. Mind made up, Tsu goes in search of her. She is about to knock on the cabin door when she hears a wet, sniffly sound coming from somewhere nearby. Tsu leaps neatly, soundlessly, to the wooden roof and delicately crawls across it. Peering over the side overhanging the back of the cabin, she spies 𝗧𝗏𝗏chan crouched behind a bush. She's got something in her hand, a piece of paper. What's that, Kiro? Eek! 𝗧𝗏𝗏chan rockets to her feet, frantically looking side to side for Tsu. The frog hero helpfully hops down in front of her, startling her a second time. Eek! Tsu can't help but chuckle at the way 𝗧𝗏𝗏chan clutches at her chest. She's always loved scaring the hell out of her younger siblings too. Tsu-wana-san, you were watching me. Just for a moment, Kiro. I was looking for you. We've all been missing you these last few days. Don't lie. 𝗧𝗏𝗏chan mutters, looking down at her shoes with all the joy of an abandoned puppy. Why would it be a lie, Kiro? Because it's my fault, 𝗧𝗏 cries, tiny hands all bunched up in tiny fists. No matter what Daddy or Papa or anyone else says, I was stupid. Yup. No, really, it was so stupid of me, and I nearly got Chako-ni killed, and everybody hates me. Oh, yup. Yes, Kiro, it was a stupid thing to do. But, Tsu reaches out to ruffle 𝗧𝗏's hair. We're all really glad you're safe. And we're all really glad Ochako-chan could save you. And that Bakugo could save Ochako-chan. 𝗧𝗏chan starts to cry again, so Tsu kneels to hug her close, pressing their cheeks together and rhythmically running her fingers through long silver strands. She's the same height as 𝗬𝗵𝗏, and the comfort Tsu offers is as easy and familiar as catching a fly. We're heroes, 𝗧𝗏chan. Saving people is what we do, and it's dangerous. What's most important is that this time, we all get to walk away from it and learn from it. 𝗧𝗪𝗀 should have kept a better eye on you, and you should have known better. We can be thankful that we made it. Punishing yourself like this just hurts yourself and everyone who loves you. 𝗓𝗏. After a time, the shaking and tears subside. 𝐒𝐬𝐬𝐽 steps back to rub at her eyes and nose. As she does so, the paper she's been clutching falls to the ground. Ready to tell me what that is, 𝗓𝗏? 𝐒𝐬𝐬𝐽 hands it to 𝗧𝗏 reluctantly, expression both shy and shameful. 𝗧𝗏 restrains herself from snickering as she reads it over. She skips over the 2 landmine seal objectives and lands on another item not yet checked off. Slumber party? 𝗬𝐬𝐽 nods, face glowing scarlet. Well, we'd better hurry up and let everyone know, 𝗓𝗏. Tonight's the last night. Really? Really, 𝗓𝗏. Underscore 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 Yamada-sensei is excessively excited when 𝗬𝐬𝐽 asks for permission. The vibrant teacher embarks on a baking frenzy, using their limited supplies to make cookies and other sleepover snacks. Aizawa scowls at his husband's exuberance, but still helps 𝗬𝐬𝐽 gather up everything she'll need. Momo-chan makes another sleeping bag, pale blue and purple to match 𝗬𝐬𝐽's puffy coat. Ochako is more excited than anyone when she hears the news that all the girls will be spending the last night of the trip in her cabin, under strict instructions to rest. She's not able to help all that much, but she asks 𝗬𝐬𝐽 to help her make decorations. Both ignoring the fact that Momo-chan could have created ready decorations as easily as she produced colored paper, scissors, and tape, the two set about making paper chains, both equally relieved to once again be in each other's company. Once all the young women in Class 2 heard about 𝗬𝐬𝐽's list, they were only too happy to help give her the perfect end to her first family vacation. Kayuka-chan makes a playlist of songs no one can refrain from singing along to. Toru-chan supplies enough face masks for everyone. No one asks why someone who can't see their own skin would have so many. Mina is practically bouncing off the walls in excitement, and takes glee in pitying the other members of the Baka squad for missing out on the fun. In response, Kaminari and Kirishima demand to host their own slumber party, ignoring Bakugo's protest that shit's for girls. Aizawa tells them to do whatever the hell they want, so long as they don't wake him up, break anything, or leave the bounds of their campsite. 𝗬𝐬𝐽 is the star of the slumber party, all the girls doting on her and asking what she'd like to do next. Classic activities such as rudimentary spas and mildly scary storytelling having passed, 𝗧𝗏 is thinking it's about time to suggest they go to bed, when Mina-chan has another suggestion. How about truth or dare? 𝗬𝐬𝐽's heard of this in a manga, and she eagerly nods at the thought of participating in such grown-up bonding. Questions pass, innocent and fun, like, what's your favorite thing about me? And how many times have you broken down crying in the middle of an exam? Then, grinning devilishly, Mina asks Ochako-chan who she likes. 𝗧𝗏 expects Ochako to either blush and flail at the query, or to simply laugh it off. 𝗧𝗏 knows she used to like Izuku ages ago, and even had a little cry in the privacy of 𝗧𝗏's dorms after congratulating him on getting together with Todoroki. She does not expect her to instantly shut down, pursing her lips with a frown that doesn't sit well on the usually cheerful face. No one. What 𝗳𝗏𝗃 squeaks. What about your boyfriends? It's interesting, the way Ochako's face flashes from red to white to green so quickly. Like a Christmas bulb, 𝗓𝗏. Why yeah, Ochako, what about your boyfriends? Mina squeals, and Toru isn't really making any sense at all, just shrieking and jumping up and down. Even Momo and Kayuka-chan look curious, leaning in to hear Ochako-chan's answer. Aren't you all dating? 𝗬𝐬𝐽 asks, looking puzzled and slightly hurt. All dating? Mina is absolutely breathless with ecstasy. Honey, who is she dating? Ochako-chan shoves her pillow in her face. Looking uncertainly about the room, Iri-chan hesitantly replies. Tashai and Po Bakini. Oh no, sweetie, Mina cackles. There's no way, she trails off, realizing Ochako-chan still hasn't spoken. Ochako? No response. Really? Is it true? But those two, Mina pauses, obviously unsure of what to say. And both. The cabin, moments ago full of raucous laughter, is suddenly silent, quiet enough to hear the way Ochako-chan's breath hitches. Okay, everybody. Momo-chan stands and claps, the class matriarch taking charge of the situation. It's far too late. Time for bed. She coaxes Iri-chan into her new sleeping bag, and the girl is snoring before the lights switch off. Ochako-chan still hasn't said anything. Tsu is patient. Tsu is observant. And she is her most patient and most observant around those she loves. But what has she missed?